You know that feeling when you're about to introduce your social media influencer wife to your traditional New England parents? It's like bringing a stripper to a church bake sale. The anticipation alone could eliminate a lesser man. My name is Mark Thompson, and I teach high school English in suburban Massachusetts. At 35, I should have known better than to marry Jessica, but love makes idiots of us all. That Tuesday evening in October 2023, as I straightened my tie in our bedroom mirror, I could hear Jessica in the bathroom applying what sounded like industrial-grade makeup. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "Mark, this dress isn't too much, is it?" she called out, her voice dripping with false innocence. I turned to see her in a black leather dress that barely covered her assets. The neckline plunged deeper than the Mariana Trench, and the hemline was more of a suggestion than actual coverage. "Jess, we're having dinner with my parents. My 61-year-old mother still thinks showing ankles is scandalous." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "I'm not your property, Mark. I dress how I want to dress. This is who I am." "I know who you are. That's not the issue. It's about respect for my family." "Your family needs to accept me as I am," she snapped, checking her phone for the 100th time. "Besides, this will make great content for my followers." My stomach dropped. "Content? Jessica, this is a family dinner, not a photo shoot." "Everything is content, Mark. That's how I make money. That's how we pay for this house." She wasn't wrong about the money. Her Instagram account, A Jessica Lives Life, had 300,000 followers who hung on her every post about fitness, fashion, and living your best life. The brand partnerships and sponsored posts brought in more than my teacher's salary ever could. We drove to my parents' colonial home in silence, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. My mother, Helen, had spent all day cooking her famous pot roast. My father, Tom, had even put on his good shirt. They were trying, which made Jessica's outfit choice even more insulting. The moment we walked through the front door, I watched my mother's face freeze in polite horror. Dad's expression went completely neutral, his default setting when processing something he didn't approve of. "Hello, dear," Mom said, giving Jessica a stiff hug. "Don't you look vibrant?" "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I just love your house. It's so quaint." Jessica was already pulling out her phone. "Mind if I take a few pictures? My followers love authentic New England charm." Before anyone could answer, she was snapping selfies in our family living room, posing next to my grandmother's antique furniture like she was at a museum. Dinner was a disaster from the first course. Jessica dominated the conversation, talking loudly about her latest sponsorship deal with a protein powder company. She live-streamed parts of the meal, narrating her experience eating traditional American comfort food to her audience. "This is so authentic, guys," she said to her phone camera, panning across the dining room. "I'm having dinner with Mark's adorable parents in their vintage home. It's like stepping back in time." My mother's smile grew more strained with each passing minute. Dad ate in silence, occasionally glancing at me with a look that said, "What have you done, son?" The breaking point came during dessert. Mom had made her famous apple pie from scratch, a recipe passed down from my great-grandmother. As she served it, Jessica wrinkled her nose. "Oh, I can't eat that. Way too many carbs. I'm on a strict keto diet for my fitness brand. Do you have any sugar-free options?" The silence that followed was deafening. My mother had spent 3 hours making that pie. "I'm sorry, dear. I didn't know about your dietary restrictions," Mom said quietly. "No worries. This will actually make great content about staying disciplined even in tempting situations." Jessica held up her phone again, filming herself declining the dessert. "Sometimes you have to say no to stay true to your goals, even when family doesn't understand your lifestyle choices." I wanted to crawl under the table and disappear. After dinner, Dad pulled me aside in his study while Jessica posed for more photos in the garden. "Son, I've kept my mouth shut for 2 years, but I can't anymore. You can't build a future with someone who treats your family like a stage prop. She's just enthusiastic about her work. Arrow, she's disrespectful and selfish. Your mother cried after the last time Jessica was here. Did you know that?" I didn't know that. The guilt hit me like a punch to the gut. She posted a video calling our house hilariously outdated and said we needed a complete makeover. Helen saw it. 300,000 people laughed at our home, Mark. Before I could respond, Jessica burst into the study. "There you are. I got the most amazing shots. Your mom's garden is perfect for my autumn content series." As we drove home, Jessica was already editing her photos and videos. "This is going to get so much engagement," she said excitedly. "Authentic family content always performs well." You embarrassed my parents tonight. I was being myself. If they can't handle that, it's their problem, not mine. You filmed yourself rejecting my mother's pie and made it sound like she was sabotaging your diet. I was teaching my followers about discipline. Everything doesn't revolve around your family's feelings, Mark. When we got home, I watched in horror as she posted a selfie with my mother in the background, looking uncomfortable and forced. The caption read, "Dinner with the Addams family. Saka awkward, harar authentic, or family time, harar blessed." My phone immediately started buzzing with notifications, comments from people I worked with, old college friends, neighbors who followed Jessica's account. Everyone could see my family being mocked for her entertainment. The humiliation burned in my chest like acid. But that night, lying in bed while Jessica excitedly responded to comments about her hilarious dinner experience, something cold and calculating began to form in my mind. If she wanted to play with fire, let's see how hot it could get. The next few weeks passed in a haze of growing suspicion and mounting evidence. Jessica's behavior became increasingly erratic. Late nights at the gym, secretive phone calls, and an endless stream of workout videos featuring her trainer, Brian Martinez. Brian was everything I wasn't: 6'2", muscles that belonged in an anatomy textbook, and the kind of cocky smile that suggested he'd never been rejected in his life. He'd been training Jessica for 6 months, and lately he appeared in more of her content than I did. My friend Eddie Chen, who worked in IT and had a talent for finding information people didn't want found, stopped by my classroom after school on a Thursday in November. "Mark, I need to show you something, and you're not going to like it." He pulled out his laptop and opened a private Instagram story that Jessica had posted the night before. In the video, she was at the gym after hours, doing what she called late-night training sessions. Brian was spotting her on bench press, his hands lingering on her body longer than necessary. "That's not the worst part," Eddie said grimly. He opened his phone and showed me a screenshot of text messages. "Trina Walsh sent this to me by accident. She meant to send it to someone else." Trina was Jessica's best friend and biggest enabler. The screenshot showed a group chat between Trina, Jessica, and 2 other women I didn't recognize. Jessica: "Brian is absolutely incredible. Best decision I ever made." Trina: "What about Mark?" Jessica: "What about him? He has no idea and he's too boring to figure it out. I'm living my best life." Unknown contact: "You're terrible. I love it." Jessica: "Mark's family dinner was torture. His parents are so judgmental and old-fashioned. At least Brian appreciates who I really am." The messages were time-stamped from 2 nights ago, the same night Jessica told me she was having a girls' night with Trina. "There's more," Eddie said quietly. He showed me Jessica's location history, which she'd foolishly shared with him months ago when they were planning a surprise party for me. Instead of being at Trina's house for girls' night, she'd been at Brian's apartment complex until 2 a.m. The evidence was overwhelming, but I needed to be absolutely certain. Over the next week, I became a detective in my own marriage. I started paying attention to details I'd previously ignored. The new lingerie that never made an appearance in our bedroom, the way she guarded her phone like state secrets, the sudden interest in late-night cardio sessions. The smoking gun came from an unexpected source. Rosa Martinez, Brian's ex-girlfriend and a rival fitness influencer with her own substantial following, reached out to me through Instagram. "We need to talk," her message read. "It's about your wife and my ex. Coffee tomorrow?" Rosa was stunning in the way that made men stupid and women jealous, but her eyes held a sharpness that suggested she didn't suffer fools. We met at a coffee shop across town, far from anywhere Jessica might accidentally show up. "I'm going to be direct because I respect you more than I respect them," she said, sliding her phone across the table. "Your wife and Brian have been having an affair for 3 months. I have proof." The phone showed a video Brian had sent to a group chat of his gym buddies. In it, Jessica was in his apartment, wearing nothing but his gym shirt, making breakfast while he filmed her from behind. The timestamp showed it was from last Tuesday, the day Jessica told me she was sick and staying home. "He's been bragging about it," Rosa continued, showing off videos, screenshots of their texts, even intimate photos. He thinks it's hilarious that he's sleeping with a married woman whose husband has no idea. My hands were shaking. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Jessica has been trying to sabotage my brand for months. She's reported my posts, tried to steal my sponsorships, and spread rumors about me in the fitness community. She thinks she's untouchable because she has more followers." Rosa's smile was sharp as a blade. "But mostly because what they're doing to you is disgusting, and someone should tell you the truth." She showed me more evidence. Screenshots of Jessica and Brian mocking me in their private messages, calling me boring, clueless, and pathetic. There were photos of them together at restaurants I couldn't afford, wearing clothes bought with money from our joint account. The final insult was a video Brian had taken of Jessica imitating my voice, mocking the way I talked about my students and my family. They were laughing so hard they could barely breathe. "I want to help you," Rosa said. "They humiliated you publicly and privately. They deserve whatever's coming to them." That night, I sat in my car outside our house for an hour, processing everything I'd learned. Jessica was inside, probably texting Brian or planning their next secret meeting. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd defended to my parents and friends, had been systematically destroying our marriage while documenting it for her lover's entertainment. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "I saw Jessica's latest post about toxic family members who don't support your growth. I know she's talking about us. I'm sorry, sweetheart. You deserve better." The post Mom referenced showed Jessica at the gym with Brian, captioned, "Sometimes you have to distance yourself from negative people, even family, to become your best self. Grateful for the positive influences in my life. Growth, positivity, how I'm blessed." 300,000 people had liked her passive-aggressive attack on my family. That's when the cold rage settled in my chest like ice. Jessica wanted to play games? She wanted to humiliate me and my family for content? She wanted to mock our marriage while sleeping with her trainer? Fine, let's play. But we were going to play by my rules now. The transformation didn't happen overnight. For 2 weeks, I played the role of the oblivious husband while methodically planning my response. Jessica continued her affair, growing bolder and more careless, while I documented everything. I moved into the guest bedroom, claiming I had a cold and didn't want to get her sick before a big brand partnership event. She seemed relieved rather than concerned, which told me everything I needed to know about the state of our marriage. My first move was financial. I quietly removed Jessica from our joint credit cards and opened a new checking account. Since the house was in my name, purchased before our marriage with money from my grandmother's estate, I had legal grounds to change the locks. I did this on a Thursday while she was at the gym, probably with Brian. When she came home to find new keys required, she was furious. "What the hell, Mark? Why can't I get into my own house?" "It's not your house," I said calmly, opening the door for her. "It's mine, and I'm being more careful about security lately. Too many people have been coming and going." The implication wasn't lost on her, but she wasn't ready to confess yet. "You're being paranoid and controlling. This isn't like you." "You're right. The old Mark was a pushover. I'm working on that." My second move was social. I reached out to Rosa and proposed a collaboration. She was launching a new fitness program and needed male testimonial content. I volunteered to document my own fitness journey, which gave me a legitimate reason to spend time at gyms, including the one where Jessica and Brian conducted their affair. "You're really doing this?" Rosa asked when we met to discuss the plan. They made it public the moment they decided to mock me in group chats and social media posts. Now it's my turn to control the narrative. Rosa's smile was predatory. "I like this version of you much better." The first public strike came during Jessica's favorite spin class. I arrived early and set up in the back row with a clear view of her and Brian's usual spots. When they walked in together, laughing and touching each other with obvious familiarity, I started recording. The video I posted to my newly created Instagram account was masterfully edited. It showed Jessica and Brian's inappropriate behavior during the class, lingering touches, whispered conversations, shared water bottles, with a simple caption: "Interesting workout techniques at FitLife Gym. Very hands-on instruction." I tagged the gym, Brian's professional account, and used hashtags that would ensure the video reached their mutual followers. Within hours, it had thousands of views and hundreds of comments from people who recognized Jessica. "Isn't she married?" one comment read. "That's definitely not her husband," said another. "Yikes, this is awkward to watch," wrote a third. Jessica called me in a panic. "Mark, what the hell is that video? Take it down right now." "What video?" "Oh, that one. I'm documenting my fitness journey, remember? You're always saying everything is content. I'm just following your example." "You filmed me without permission." "In a public gym where you filmed hundreds of videos. I'm pretty sure that's fair game." The video was just the opening shot. Over the next week, I systematically documented their affair through carefully planned, coincidental encounters. I showed up at restaurants where Rosa had told me they'd be dining, always with a plausible reason for being there, grading papers, meeting a colleague, grabbing takeout. Each time, I'd post innocent-looking photos that happened to capture Jessica and Brian in the background, clearly on romantic dates. My captions were always neutral: "Great pasta at Romano's tonight," or "Grading papers at this cozy cafe." But the implications were clear to anyone paying attention. The fitness community was small and gossipy. Word spread quickly that Jessica Thompson was having a very public affair with her trainer while her husband seemed to be documenting it in real time. The speculation became a form of entertainment for people who followed both Jessica and Brian's accounts. My masterstroke came during Jessica's biggest brand partnership event of the year. She was hosting a wellness and self-love workshop at a downtown hotel, sponsored by 3 major fitness brands. Tickets cost $50 each, and she'd been promoting it for months as a life-changing experience. I bought a ticket under a fake name and arrived early. The ballroom was packed with Jessica's most devoted followers, mostly women in their 20s and 30s looking for inspiration and motivation. Jessica took the stage in a designer workout outfit, radiating confidence and fake authenticity. Ladies, today is about embracing your truth and living your most authentic life. It's about breaking free from people and situations that don't serve your highest good. The irony was delicious. 20 minutes into her presentation, I activated the plan. Rosa, positioned near the AV equipment, plugged in a USB drive containing a carefully curated compilation of Jessica and Brian's affair evidence. The hotel's projection screen suddenly displayed their intimate text messages, photos from their secret dates, and the video of Jessica mocking me in Brian's apartment. The room fell silent as 300 women read Jessica's messages about being trapped in a boring marriage, and how she was finally living her truth with Brian. The photos showed them kissing, embracing, and celebrating their deception. Jessica stood frozen on stage, her microphone still live, as her entire audience processed the evidence of her hypocrisy. She was literally giving a speech about authentic living while conducting a secret affair. "This isn't what it looks like," she stammered into the microphone, but it was exactly what it looked like, and everyone knew it. The audience began to murmur, then talk, then openly express their disgust. Phones came out as people started recording Jessica's meltdown. Within minutes, the hashtag Jaj or Authentic Jessica was trending locally. I slipped out during the chaos, but Rosa stayed to film the aftermath. Jessica's sponsors pulled their support before the day was over. The hotel demanded she refund the ticket prices. Her carefully constructed brand imploded in real time. That evening, as Jessica sat in our living room crying and trying to salvage her reputation through damage control posts, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "How could you do this to me?" she sobbed. "I didn't do anything to you, Jessica. I just made sure people could see who you really are. Isn't that what you wanted? Authentic living?" She looked at me with something approaching fear. "You're not the same person I married." "You're right. The person you married was a fool who let you walk all over him and his family. That person is gone." The war was just beginning. Jessica's attempt at damage control backfired spectacularly. She posted a tearful video confession, admitting to the affair but claiming it was because she felt emotionally neglected in our marriage. She portrayed herself as a victim of circumstances, a woman who'd simply fallen in love with someone who understood her better. The comments section was brutal. Her followers, who'd looked up to her as a relationship role model, felt betrayed and manipulated. Screenshots of her mocking me and my family circulated widely, destroying any sympathy she might have gained. "You literally made fun of your husband's family for content," one comment read. "That's not emotional neglect, that's just being a terrible person." "Imagine finding out your wife's affair through her Instagram story," wrote another. "This man deserves better." Her follower count dropped by 50,000 in 3 days. Brand partnerships evaporated. The fitness influencer community, led by Rosa's strategic whisper campaign, began distancing themselves from Jessica's toxic behavior. Meanwhile, Brian was facing his own consequences. The gym where he worked received dozens of complaints about his unprofessional conduct. Video evidence of him training Jessica in compromising positions, combined with testimonials from other female clients who'd felt uncomfortable with his behavior, led to his termination. "They fired me because of you," he screamed at me when he cornered me in the gym parking lot. "You ruined my career." "I didn't ruin anything," I replied calmly. "I just made sure people could see your professional standards. If you got fired, that's between you and your employer." Brian stepped closer, trying to intimidate me with his size. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Hiding behind your little camera and your social media games." "I think I'm exactly as smart as I need to be to handle a situation like this. But please, by all means, threaten me in a parking lot full of security cameras. I'm sure that'll help your reputation." He looked around, suddenly aware that several people were watching our interaction. His fists clenched and unclenched as he wrestled with his anger and his remaining common sense. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Actually, it is. You're unemployed, your reputation is destroyed, and my wife is about to be my ex-wife. What exactly do you think you're going to do? Start a podcast about your feelings?" The humiliation in his eyes was perfect. He slunk away like a beaten dog, and I never saw him again. Back home, Jessica was becoming increasingly desperate. She'd moved back to her mother's house after I made it clear she was no longer welcome in mine. Her attempts to rebuild her brand were failing, and the financial reality of her situation was setting in. She called me repeatedly, alternating between tearful apologies and angry accusations. "You've destroyed my entire life," she said during one particularly dramatic phone call. "No, Jessica, you destroyed your own life. I just made sure people could see what you were really doing. There's a difference." "I made a mistake." "People make mistakes." "You made a choice?" "Actually, you made hundreds of choices over months of planning and execution. You chose to have an affair. You chose to mock me and my family. You chose to lie and manipulate and document it all for your boyfriend's entertainment. Those weren't mistakes, they were decisions. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Since Massachusetts is a no-fault divorce state, Jessica's adultery didn't technically matter for the legal process, but it mattered for everything else. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Walsh, who specialized in high-conflict divorces, was impressed by the documentation I'd gathered. "I've never seen a case with this much evidence," she said, reviewing the files Eddie had helped me organize. "Your wife documented her own affair better than most private investigators could have." The settlement was favorable to me. Jessica had no claim to the house, which remained solely in my name. Her earning potential had collapsed along with her brand, while my teaching job provided stable, documented income. She walked away with her personal belongings and a harsh lesson about the consequences of public humiliation. But the legal victory wasn't enough. Jessica had humiliated me and my family in front of hundreds of thousands of people. She'd made our private pain into public entertainment. The divorce was just paperwork. The real satisfaction would come from watching her face the full consequences of her choices. That opportunity came sooner than I expected. Rosa called me on a Saturday morning in February, barely containing her excitement. "Mark, you need to see this. Jessica is trying to make a comeback." She'd launched a new Instagram account called Jessica Rising, positioning herself as a reformed woman who'd learned from her mistakes. Her bio read, "Divorced, humbled, and rising stronger," sharing my journey of growth and redemption. Her first post was a carefully staged photo of her looking contemplative in workout clothes, with a long caption about taking accountability and learning from rock bottom. She was clearly hoping to rebuild her brand around the narrative of redemption and personal growth. "She's got about 10,000 followers already," Rosa said. "A lot of them seem to be buying the comeback story." "How do you feel about helping me make sure her comeback is short-lived?" Rosa's laugh was music to my ears. "What did you have in mind?" The plan we developed was elegant in its simplicity. Jessica's redemption narrative depended on her portraying herself as someone who genuinely learned from her mistakes and grown as a person. But Rosa had kept screenshots of Jessica's private messages from after the divorce, messages where she called me vindictive and psychotic and claimed she was only sorry she got caught. More damaging were the messages where Jessica outlined her comeback strategy, describing it as a calculated rebranding designed to manipulate people's sympathy. She literally referred to her followers as idiots who'll believe anything if you package it right. We waited until Jessica's comeback gained momentum. She'd posted several viral videos about learning to love yourself after public failure, and had started attracting positive media attention. A local morning show even booked her for an interview about rebuilding your life after scandal. The night before her television appearance, Rosa released the screenshots. The images spread through social media like wildfire. Jessica's own words revealed that her entire redemption arc was a calculated manipulation, that she felt no genuine remorse for her actions, and that she viewed her supporters as gullible marks to be exploited. The morning show canceled her appearance, or her new followers abandoned her en masse. The fitness community, which had been cautiously welcoming her back, turned against her permanently. Jessica's comeback lasted exactly 3 weeks. She called me one final time, her voice raw with defeat and rage. "You win, Mark. Are you happy now? You've destroyed everything I ever worked for." "I didn't destroy anything, Jessica. I just made sure people could see who you really are. If that destroyed everything you worked for, maybe you should think about what that says about the foundation you built your life on. You're a monster." "No, I'm just not a victim anymore. There's a difference." She hung up, and I never heard from her again. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I thought the Jessica chapter of my life was closed. I'd returned to focusing on my teaching, had started dating Rosa casually, and was rebuilding relationships with friends and family who'd been caught in the crossfire of my marriage's public implosion. My parents and I were closer than we'd been in years. The humiliation Jessica had put them through had initially driven a wedge between us, but my methodical dismantling of her public persona had restored their faith in my judgment. My mother even started following my Instagram account, leaving encouraging comments on my fitness progress posts. "I'm proud of how you handled everything," my father told me during one of our regular dinners. "You could have gotten bitter and angry, but you stayed strategic and kept your dignity." If only he knew how much I'd enjoyed every moment of Jessica's downfall. But Jessica wasn't done. In late summer, she made one final, desperate play for relevance that would give me the opportunity to deliver the final blow I'd been unconsciously waiting for. Eddie called me on a Thursday evening, his voice tight with concern. "Mark, you need to see what Jessica's planning. It's really bad." He'd been monitoring her online activity, a habit left over from our divorce proceedings, and had discovered she was organizing something called a Truth and Reconciliation event. According to the private planning documents he'd accessed, Jessica intended to hold a public forum where she would tell her side of the story and expose what she called my systematic psychological abuse and manipulation. The event was scheduled for the following Saturday at a community center downtown. She'd been promoting it through a network of supporters she'd cultivated, mostly other divorced women who saw her as a victim of male vindictiveness. The promotional materials painted me as a controlling husband who'd orchestrated an elaborate campaign of revenge against a woman who'd simply fallen out of love. "She's claiming you hacked her accounts, stalked her, and manipulated evidence to destroy her career," Eddie explained. "She's got about 100 people planning to attend, including some local reporters who think this might be a story about domestic abuse and social media harassment." The audacity was breathtaking. Jessica was attempting to rewrite history, positioning herself as the victim of the very behavior she'd perpetrated against me and my family. She was going to publicly accuse me of the systematic humiliation and manipulation that she'd documented herself doing to me. "What do you want to do?" Eddie asked. I thought for a moment, feeling that familiar cold calculation settle in my chest. "I want to attend. I think it's time for a real truth and reconciliation." The community center was packed when I arrived Saturday evening. Jessica had clearly put significant effort into organizing the event. She'd created a stage setup with professional lighting and a microphone system. Banners reading "Truth and Healing" hung from the walls. About 150 people filled the folding chairs, most of them women who looked like they were ready to hear a story about male abuse and female victimization. Jessica stood at the front of the room in a conservative dress that was clearly chosen to project vulnerability and respectability. She'd lost weight since our divorce and looked genuinely fragile, which would play well with her narrative. I took a seat in the back row, pulling a baseball cap low over my face. Rosa sat 3 rows ahead of me, recording everything on her phone. Eddie was positioned near the exit with a laptop bag that contained some very interesting evidence. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Jessica began, her voice trembling with what appeared to be genuine emotion. "This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but I believe it's important to speak truth about what really happened in my marriage." For the next 20 minutes, she spun a masterful tale of psychological abuse and manipulation. According to Jessica's version of events, I was a controlling husband who'd isolated her from friends and family, monitored her social media activity, and eventually orchestrated an elaborate revenge campaign when she tried to leave the marriage. She claimed I'd hacked her accounts to steal private messages, stalked her and Brian to create compromising photos, and manipulated evidence to destroy her career. She presented herself as a woman who'd made the mistake of having an emotional affair but had been punished far beyond what the crime deserved. "I'm not saying what I did was right," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I know I hurt Mark, and I'm genuinely sorry for that. But what he did to me in response was calculated. Systematic psychological warfare designed to destroy not just my marriage, but my entire life and livelihood." The audience was eating it up. I could see heads nodding, hear murmurs of sympathy and outrage. Several people were recording the speech on their phones, presumably to share Jessica's truth with their own social networks. "I lost everything," Jessica continued. "My career, my home, my financial security, my reputation, all because I fell in love with someone else. That's not justice. That's abuse." When she opened the floor for questions, several audience members offered support and shared their own stories of vindictive ex-husbands. The narrative was solidifying. Jessica was a victim of male rage and technological harassment, a cautionary tale about what happened when women tried to leave controlling men. That's when I stood up. "I have a question," I said, removing my baseball cap. The room fell silent as people recognized me. Jessica's face went white, then red, then white again. She gripped the podium like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Mark," she whispered into the microphone, I didn't know you were here." I wouldn't miss this for the world. It's fascinating to hear your version of events, but I think your audience deserves to hear the complete truth, don't you? Eddie was already moving toward the AV equipment at the side of the room. Rosa had her phone trained on Jessica's face, capturing every micro-expression of panic and rage. I think I've said everything that needs to be said, Jessica replied, trying to regain control of the situation. Oh, but you haven't. See, you've told them what you claim I did to you, but you haven't told them what you actually did to me. You haven't shared the evidence that you created yourself. Eddie plugged his laptop into the community center's projection system. The large screen behind Jessica flickered to life, displaying the title slide of a presentation I'd spent weeks perfecting. The complete record, Jessica Thompson's documented deception. What are you doing? Jessica demanded. You can't just... Actually, I can. This is a public forum about truth and reconciliation, right? So let's have some truth. The first slide showed screenshots of Jessica's group chat messages mocking me and my family, complete with timestamps and context. The audience could see her calling me pathetic and clueless while planning her affair. These messages were sent from Jessica's own phone to her friends, I explained to the stunned audience. She wasn't a victim of psychological abuse. She was the perpetrator of it, documenting her own cruelty for entertainment. The next slides showed the progression of Jessica's affair in her own words and photos. Her social media posts mocking my family, her videos ridiculing our marriage, her detailed plans to deceive me while taking advantage of our joint finances. Every piece of evidence you're seeing came directly from Jessica's own accounts and devices, I continued. I didn't hack anything. I didn't manipulate anything. I simply made public what she had already created and shared with others. The audience was turning. I could see the shift in their faces as they realized they'd been manipulated. Jessica had invited them here to be props in another performance, another attempt to control a narrative through deception. The truth is that Jessica documented her own affair better than any private investigator could have. She created a detailed record of her deception, her cruelty, and her contempt for the man she'd promised to love and honor. I just made sure people could see it. Jessica tried to regain control of the microphone, but her supporters were already standing up and leaving. The reporters in attendance were furiously taking notes, but now they were writing a very different story than the one they'd come to cover. "You're a monster," Jessica screamed at me as the room emptied around her. "You've ruined my entire life." "No, Jessica, you ruined your own life. I just made sure everyone could see what you were really doing. There's a difference." She lunged at me then, her carefully constructed victim persona finally cracking completely. Rosa caught the entire meltdown on video as Jessica screamed and clawed at me while the remaining audience members watched in shock. Security guards from the community center escorted her out while she continued screaming about my psychological abuse and systematic manipulation. But everyone had seen the evidence. Everyone knew the truth now. The video of Jessica's final meltdown went viral within hours. The contrast between her composed victim act and her unhinged rage when confronted with evidence became a cautionary tale about the dangers of social media manipulation and false victimhood narratives. Her Truth and Reconciliation event became a case study in how abusers often claim to be victims when their behavior is exposed. Psychology blogs and social media experts use Jessica's story to illustrate the tactics of narcissistic manipulation and DARVO: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. I walked out of that community center feeling lighter than I had in years. The weight of Jessica's lies and manipulation was finally gone, replaced by the satisfaction of complete and total victory. She'd tried to destroy me through public humiliation and psychological abuse. Instead, she'd provided me with all the tools I needed to destroy her completely. The poetic justice was perfect. 3 days later, I received a single text message from an unknown number. "I'm leaving town. You win. I hope you're happy." I deleted it without responding. Jessica Thompson was finally completely irrelevant to my life. Rosa and I were married 6 months later in my parents' garden, surrounded by genuine friends and family who loved and supported us. My mother cried happy tears. My father gave a toast about the importance of choosing partners who enhance your life rather than diminish it. As I looked around at the faces of people who truly cared about me, I realized that Jessica's betrayal had been the best thing that ever happened to me. It had forced me to find my strength, to demand respect, and to build a life based on authenticity rather than performance. The night she burned, I rose from the ashes stronger than I'd ever been before. The end character count: 47,892 characters. Stvorno. 2025, 10/06, 10/16/44.